Hello, Tyler here again. This is the second video in a series talking about permit expediting for tenant improvements in the Las Vegas area. Most permit expediting processes are set up for larger projects. What happens is you pay an extra fee to both the building department and the architects and engineers who design the project so that they can all be together to work out any concerns of the building department plan reviewers. For most building departments, accepting a project for expediting is a discretionary issue because they need to find within their own staff people to accept overtime payments to get your project reviewed outside the normal queue. Most of the intent in creating the basis for the expediting systems in all building departments years ago was to take large projects that may have been in the plan review process for months and reduce their timelines to a couple of meetings or even one meeting followed by resubmission of the plans. This would result in narrowing that timeline down to 2 or 3 weeks. In standard expediting, the building department generally wants to be informed of the expediting 2 weeks before you submit. At the time of submission, you will find out if they're willing to do the expediting. This is because they have to ask their staff if they are willing to work overtime and get paid overtime out of our client's pocket to do some extra work outside of pushing others in the queue back. Since there are substantial fees paid to do this process and it is still not intended to cut the timeline down to less than 2 weeks, most of the building departments have specific limits about how small of a project they will take for their expediting process. For those limits, you should know that the most common tenant improvements are too small for these processes. This is not 100% true, so this brings us to the most common type of permit expediting. If the building department is not willing to accept their project for their official expediting permit processing, there are some permit expediters willing to try to go back to the building department over and over again until they hit the right person and moment to try to get them to review a project with multiple trades at once. This is a matter of relationships and hitting the right moment. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. If it does not, then the building department will still intake your project into the normal queue, and the expediter must then try to contact each individual building department plan reviewer as they are assigned and try to get them to help it through the process. Sometimes the expediter will go back to the building department over and over in the interest of pushing the project along. We recently had a tenant improvement project go through in just 2 days using this method. Other times it takes just as long for processing as the normal process, but you are paying the processor regardless of the number of days it takes. All processors charge by the hour. One important advantage of having a Nevada architect to process a project drawn by an architect whose office is elsewhere is that we can take a look at their plans to see if they are set up to include information that is expected by local customs. When SSA does this, we are usually able to cut considerable time off the review process by making sure that what the building department expects to see is included where they expect to see it. Not all Nevada licensed architects will be familiar with the local customs of each jurisdiction, as we are. So the expediter can help to save time and money. A second pair of eyes from the local architect who does the expediting can avoid any first or second round of comments and the associated 2-week delay. As I mentioned previously, this work is generally billed at hourly rates for the architect, the expediter, and the building department staff. This can be fairly expensive, easily running more than $1,000 and often runs more than $3,000. However, most commercial building permits, even tenant improvements, the monthly rent exceeds that. The economics of doing this can easily pencil out in the favor of the end user, and if it's successful, it can be a dramatic saving. So putting $2,800 into an expediting cost and saving a month in the permitting process and save a month of rent at $4,000 or so, the numbers are there to support it, and this works quite well, although it's not 100% sure. Over the years, the various building departments have changed their methodologies of handling things, and there aren't really too many opportunities for various permit expediters to short circuit the system like there once was back 20 years ago. People would just call the name of a person from over the counter and get them to do a little favor. But nowadays, you're taking a strange number like you would at the DMV. One person walks in and gets number 28. Another walks in and gets number 750. Another walks in and they're GE 75, and you don't really have a good idea of which planner is going to call which number and how all that was handled. The days of seeing Tim and trying to get him to help because he is a more cooperative person to intake your plans are almost 100% gone. We have done permit expediting in California, Arizona, and some small jurisdictions where it's apparent when you walk in the front door who is going to help you and who won't. So we are able to either have those relationships already or rapidly build them because it's something that simple common sense dictates, but the majority of it is know-how. The principal architect has been a licensed architect since 1987, and he normally assigns these type of expediting projects to one of the first-string project managers, who are the ones that are drawing, designing, and permitting projects for our firm. We don't hand this over to the clerical staff or to the runners. We hand it over to people with college degrees in architecture engineering that have been up and down this road, and they are overseen by the principal architect who assists them when they hit a snag. We would also like to be clear about one point because we get often asked. If someone else produces the drawings under Nevada state law, we cannot stamp them. That's illegal, as we are not the architect of record. If you have a design professional who's licensed to practice in Nevada and they're in New York or LA, or who cares where, then we're happy to work as the expediter for their process. We just can't stamp their drawings. That is just the nature of long-distance regulations work in Nevada. And uniquely in Nevada, the building department officials are required to turn you in to the architect's board if they suspect that something like this is going on. So there are lots of ways we can help you, but that is not one of them. If you're interested in talking to us with this, the initial consultation in our office is always free. And we have a website you can visit at smallstudioassociates.com with lots of additional information and articles. We also have upwards of 50 videos reviewing here on YouTube. Please continue on to the next part of this video series where I'll speak on the Clark County Permit Now program. See you there.